Hey, I'm Tyler Olson. The show is Money Mediator. I'm an investment advisor and financial planner for medical professionals as they transition out of their training. Our busy lives and sometimes our emotions can have a big impact on our emotions and our decisions. The goal here is to insert an objective view into the process, basically a mediator between you and your money. And today we're going to be applying this to a particular topic, and that is how spouses of people in medicine support their families, how they work together. And I'm pleased to have three such individuals willing to talk with me today. I got Justin, Michael, and Ashley. Thank you all for coming today.
Thanks for having me.
Um, yeah, I had, as we had discussed before, a few questions that we could just kind of discuss. But beforehand, I was hoping just to get a little background on each of you to kind of get some context. Justin, would you mind starting, about yourself and your spouse?
For sure. So my fiance and I are currently living in New York City on the Upper East Side. She is a maternal fetal medicine fellow at Einstein in the Bronx. Before that, residency was in Worcester, Mass, at the University of Massachusetts, and medical school at George Washington University. Before that, we actually met, both of us were in undergrad, so I've been there for the whole journey now. And we're looking forward to what's next. What else can I tell you? Anything?
No, that's great. Thank you.
Okay, good.
Yeah. And Ashley, how about you?
Ashley, I'm married to Nick. He is in the last year of med school. We just matched for emergency medicine from Madison, Wisconsin. So getting ready to move.
Yes.
Yes. We have two children. And so I am the mom, the wife, and taxi driver, and everything else in the family.
And I'm Michael. Me and my wife currently live in Utah, Salt Lake City. She's finishing up her second year of doing urology research, and we will be moving to Washington, D.C., to George Washington in probably a few months. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, we've been traveling pretty much all across the nation. I'm originally from Texas. She's originally from Nigeria, moved in, came to the States, went to Baylor, and then transitioned up to New York, where she did her medical school, and then did 1 year of general surgery at was in New York Presbyterian Queens, and then again just fellowship here, and now we're transitioning back into residency for year two. So.
And Michael, when did you meet, the two of you?
We met 2018.
Okay.
So yeah, that was after she was finished with all of her schooling. So I caught the back half of her residency.
Okay. And so you're diving into or she's diving into year two of her residency.
Year two. So this will be my first time actually experiencing the full run of the residency. So we'll see how that is. I mean, not quite sure, but I mean, I'm sure we'll get through it.
Yeah, I'm sure you will.
You shall.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So one thing that I wanted to ask all of you, and feel free, whoever wants to jump in. I was wondering, what sort of challenges that you, as the spouse of either the medical student or the doctor, what have you had to face, together with your spouse? What role did you have to play to support them? Any ideas there?
I know for me, just with the start of it, again, when we were living in two different locations and then trying to relocate, that was probably the biggest challenge, because we had got married March of 2019. And then, so I'll try to condense it and keep it short, but we had our court wedding March of 2019. And then, so between then and June, we were married long distance. She was in New York, I was in Texas. And then I knew she was coming to Salt Lake, and I was like, okay, are we going to do this long distance? Are you going to be there for a little bit, or is it going to be long term? And, but just being married, I was like, no, I want to be there. So I didn't tell her I quit my job. And so, and this is before I found a job in Salt Lake. And so we made that work. And coming up here, I was thinking, oh, it'll be a nice smooth transition. And then I realized that when I signed my contract, I took a $15,000 pay cut from moving from Texas to here. So also my wife did 1 year unpaid. So that first year moving here, I took that huge pay cut, and then it's like trying to be the only income coming in to navigate and kind of scramble by. But I mean, through all that time, I mean, like I said, our faith kind of plays a huge part in that. So it's like God was faithful through all of it, and we got through it. And then the next year, grant was written, so a little bit of extra income coming in. But now we're kind of in the transition, having to move again. So I mean, it's just for me, it was more so still wanting to be the supportive husband and being able to be present and be where she's at. And then just the flexibility of not really feeling like my career is not somewhere where I feel like I have to just be grounded and rooted somewhere. So it's easy to kind of pick up and go to support her, to, I guess, make sure that she ultimately, gets to a place to fulfill her dream and her goal. So I mean, that's kind of been what it's been for us. And I mean, and it's been working pretty well. I mean, there's been times where it's been difficult. Like I know now, it's like she has a job, so we're excited, but now it's like me needing to find a job before we move. And I know like that, I tend to stress a lot during that, of just not having that certainty of having a job going forward. But I mean, I know something will open up and work out.
Yeah, I think two of the bigger challenges for us was because of the length of which we were together, is like we both had to go on that residency and medical together, which I think is both good and it's fortifying. But like we both had to share in those struggles, which I think it's a lot for it's a lot for a spouse to take on, and it's definitely a lot for someone you're sort of dating or close friends with or whatever. So I think that's that was definitely a sacrifice. I think it's like it takes you off the game because you have to sort of be invested in someone else that's going through some absolutely crazy stuff. So I think that was probably one of our biggest challenges. And then it's like even with, I know in med school we were in sort of a high cost of living for med school and residency. It's like it's like I don't know what other people did that didn't have some additional cushion, but like the loans don't cover like where we were living. Like it doesn't cut it. And it's like, and we it was I'm grateful that we were able to bridge that gap and whatever. It's like, what do people do that can't? Like that's great. It's like you're trying to become an excellent physician and you like can't pay your rent in your shoebox apartment in New York or DC or wherever. So those are two tricky ones, but got through them.
Yeah.
Add kids to the mix, it gets really fun.
It's like
it's a whole nother thing. Yeah, we have two. Our oldest is 8, our youngest is 4. And like I said, Nick always said the easiest thing he has to do is just go to med school, because he comes home and I do the cooking, the cleaning, fold the laundry, put it away, get the kids to and from school, get them to and from their camps where they need to be. So I always joked with all his deans. I was like, where's my diploma? Like when you get this, like, where's mine? And it's a joke. Obviously, he's working really hard for it.
For sure.
But I truly think that I was lucky going into this. He was a fireman before med school. So I'm used to him not being home. So that aspect doesn't bother us. We do just fine. Yeah. But it's he's home, but he's in the office.
Yeah.
So he's not home, but he's home. So it's like a team, like here's, for a little kid, here's a present, but you can't open until Christmas.
Right.
Kind of thing.
It's like, how do you explain to the kids that like, yep, dad needs to go into that room for 6 hours and you can't talk to him. It's like, what, Yeah.
Yes. It's hard and it's difficult, and you do make a lot of sacrifices going into this, and we will continue to make the sacrifices need be. And I've had to put my life on hold in some ways. I can't, do the jobs I want to do because I can only work 9 to 5 because Nick's schedule won't allow him to take the kids to school or pick them up.
Right.
So it's
hard.
It's fun though.
I can't imagine, like, I mean, just because we haven't experienced it yet, because we just have one child, but everything takes forever with children. And we just have one. Like my wife and I, we were even talking about it last night. Just like, and I'm not like neither of us are in medicine, so it doesn't even compare. But just, I guess I can like the toll or the not the toll, the amount of work that is on you, like every day from like the moment you wake up until like you crash at night. It's so much. It's so much.
Yeah. There's no sick days.
Right.
There's no sick days.
Exactly.
And you got, your husband bringing home stuff that he gets from the hospital, and the kids bringing home stuff they get from school. And then I'm just some days just dead on the couch. I'm like, and breathe. But yeah, but it's different. I mean, one of Nick's classmates, the girl behind him, she has 9 kids.
Wow.
And I look and I'm like, how are you alive? How are you doing? And she is the med student.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And she has,
Unbelievable.
yeah,
It's
she
amazing.
is an amazing woman. I'm like,
Yeah.
ooh, the patience you have.
That's a lot of kids.
That's a lot of kids. They're great kids though. I've been around them a couple of times and they are probably some of the greatest kids you'll meet, but it's, yeah.
So like with that workload, Ashley, that you mentioned, like, and maybe there's no good answer to this, or maybe there isn't a solution at the time, but are there certain habits or like routines that you, if you have the opportunity or the time, just if you just get lucky enough to have it, are there certain things that help you to take care of yourself, or even like just keep your, I don't know, keep, I don't know if mental stability is the right word, but I don't know, just something that like helps you to be grounded?
No,
No?
it's because it's a different day. Kind of, our youngest daughter is, I think she's passionate. It's what mood is Reagan going to wake up? Are we going to have a good day, or are we going to have a difficult day? And when we have good days, it's okay, let's go to the park because she's going to be happy and cheerful all day and life's going to be great. So then those are my easy days. If she wakes up and she's in her no mood, it's just slow breaths day by day. No, my biggest thing is bedtime. I guess that's my safety. I know all the chaos is going to end by 8:30. At 8:30, both the kids will be fed, clean, in their beds, and that's it. So I guess days that are rough, I just look forward to. I'm like, it's 5 hours till 8:30. I'll be okay, and stuff like that. And that's sad, and I'm sure some people are gonna parent bash me on that, but there's days that 8:30 is just the best time of the day.
I fully agree. I mean, no, I mean, your kids are 4 and 8, you said?
Oh yes, 4 and 8.
Yeah. So like, I mean, I don't know what the sleep patterns are at that time, but I know like for us, like right now, our son, he's about to give up his last nap. Like he's kind of doing that. And so, but we still try to give him the chance. And like my wife takes care of him for the most part. I'm working from home, so I hear everything that's going on. But by the time the evening rolls around, like you're just like, there can be that one touchstone that's just going to be like, okay, even if it was a really rough day, because of behavior or whatever is going on, there's that like couple hours of quiet.
Yes.
So there's that. Yeah. How about you, Michael or Justin? What do you think?
I think it's an interesting dynamic, like nothing is permanent, right? So it's whether like when, when your kids are up and you just like need to get through something and whatever, or it's, the next rotation is ending or you're getting through your next year, like however sort of terrible that individual moment may be, it's, it's temporary. Whether it's getting through med school or residency, it's like, yes, it's X years, but it's temporary. And the idea is hopefully it's worth it.
Justin, where your wife is at in her training, like how, I mean, you said fellowship now. So does she have weekends off now?
Yeah. So she now has like a much more relaxed schedule, at least for the moment. She still has sort of some weekend call once in a while, but she's home, most weekends by default, and a lot of clinics will end at, 5, 6 o'clock. So we've seen each other more now than we have in probably the last 10 years. She works from home on Tuesdays, and especially now with COVID, we've both been home a lot, which is definitely interesting. Interesting to see how we've both developed independently, sort of at the same time, and also together when we're around for extended periods of time. So definitely interesting.
How did you, what sort of things did you do when she was when she was an intern early on in her residency?
As far as like keeping myself occupied.
Yeah, or just like kind of like, did you have any habits or routines that you took the initiative on to try to like make sure that like she had, I don't know, that things were good outside of the
Yeah,
work?
so I think there's sort of the together, and then there's just me, and I think in order for us to be good together, I had to sort of get myself functioning at a high level as well. But I think like whether it's whenever we had time off, like we would go do something, whether we would go away a lot, but like even if there was no money, it's like we would go to parents' house for a weekend, or like go hiking someplace. Just no matter how tired you were, like post call, we would end up sort of just throwing her in the car, she'd sleep for a couple hours, and like we do something, whether it was could be just going to dinner or going for a walk or whatever it was, but something that let us develop sort of as a couple.
Okay.
And no, for me, I mean, I'm anxious a little bit just because I've not experienced residency yet.
Don't let us scare you.
We've been here. The 2 years that we've been here she's been doing research. So, I mean, and a lot of it too is like we're pretty close to the university, and then my school's the other way. So it's like it's really not that far apart. So we usually carpool together. So I mean, we spend a lot of time together. And then with COVID, it's pretty much been just remote, doing research from home. There's days where she'll go in. And so I mean, most carpool then, and it's like, so I guess like routines and habits is like, I know if she's had like a long day of researching and looking at stuff, like looking at the computer screen all day and typing and emails and having to talk to people all day. A lot of the time on the way home, since the university's on the way, I'll stop and I'll kind of prepare dinner, and then pick her up. That way, when she comes home, we can just eat. And so, and I think that's been, and I think coming from the South too, like I was in I guess like a circle or community of friends that like patriarchy was kind of that thing where man has a specific role, a woman has a specific role, and I think like through this, like being married to somebody that's a physician, it kind of, and it's like being married and you look at that kind of one flesh union, it's like it almost kind of, you balance one another out. It's not like a your role, my role type thing. It's like we're doing this for each other. So it's like if my wife's had a stressful day all day, I'm gonna come home and I'm gonna prepare dinner or do something or clean or wash, whatever. And there's days where I have, I've had a rough day or a long day, and she'll come and she'll kind of make that contribution or sacrifice, however you want to look at it. And I mean, and with us, with her doing research and stuff, me being an educator, it's like my summers are wide open. So during the summer, we get to spend a lot of that time together. Weekends, she's off. And she's even when she was in residency at the beginning of our relationship, she's always been very intentional of not bringing work home with her. And I've been, when I first met her, like I literally would bend over backwards for like everybody at work. Oh, can you do this? Can you do that? And I'd be there early in the morning. And it's time you're putting into work that you're not getting paid for. You're just doing favors basically, and people are just using you. And so through meeting her, it's like I've learned to kind of say no. I used to be that yes man, people pleaser. And so, I mean, even being with her, I've kind of picked up the habits of not bringing work home with me as well. So as soon as my contract time is up, like that's it, and I come home. And I mean, we do walks at night, when we get off home from work, when we eat, maybe go out for a walk. Weekends, we'll go to the park, go for a run or a walk. We do a lot of hiking being in Utah. When we first moved here, we probably did maybe 1 or 2 trails every weekend. And I mean, and now one of the big habits we kind of started was she gets me, I've kind of had to sacrifice, I guess, and live on that residency kind of schedule. we'll get up at like 3 a.m., 3:30 in the morning to go to the gym. And that's kind of like our boost to kick off the day, you know. And it's like you kind of, and it's been nice because it's like it makes you feel accomplished. You got something checked off the list, like you're awake and your blood's going, and it's like, so it kind of gets you ready for the day. And then it's like at the end of the day, you get to just come home and relax. There's nothing that's really, you know, going to occupy your time too much besides just kind of, you know, just eating, relaxing, watch TV, catch up on how each other's day went, and so on. Yeah.
These are great, great ideas. And for every family, and it's different, and for every, at every point in which they're learning or training, it's gonna change, and so you're all you all are coming from different perspectives, so that's really good and helpful. Um, do you feel like there's like one particular thing, like Ashley, you mentioned that like sometimes Nick comes like and he has to like come home and study, right? That's like the 6-hour thing. Like, is there a particular thing that you have found to be helpful to like transition that sort of thing? Like, I know that like I ask because I know like if I am like outside for work and then I come home, there's like a certain way to go about me getting back into the office without it disrupting the child and everything. And then there's a way to not do it. And it took me some time to figure out the right way. Is there is there a particular thing that helps that so that it's like a smooth transition? I'm thinking about other students and stuff who are studying at home.
I'm trying to think. No, I mean, the kids are used to it, with Nick's career before med school, with being tired and stuff like that, contributing in the same thing. But no, Nick comes home and he'll play with the kids for a little bit and ask them how their day is. And then he just explains to them, hey, I've got to get this work done so that we can have dinner together. That is one of the things that we do. I can count on one hand how many dinners Nick has missed. Even during anatomy, he made sure that he was home for dinners. So if you're able to do that, I think that's important because dinner is important to us. But no, he just explains to the kids and lets me know, hey, I've got to do this class online, especially with COVID. Things this last year have been more at home than normal. But we talk to the kids like they're little humans, and because they are, and they understand a lot more than people give them credit for. And Elijah's 8, and we'll be like, hey, we understand that you're 8 and loud and running around the house, but can you go run around in the backyard for half an hour instead of running up and down the hallways? And they go, okay. And that's it.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. Now I've heard two things, because I wasn't this didn't occur to me in the moment, but you both, like Michael, you mentioned something about how your wife doesn't like bring work home with her, and then Ashley, you just mentioned that Nick will say like he'll communicate with the kids like they're human, like, and I totally subscribe to that concept, like that our kids are far more intelligent than I think that our previous generations may have given us credit for. And so that sort of communication, those are like really good things. Are there any other things that your spouses, any of you, that you feel like, wow, I'm really glad that they do this? Because obviously we're talking about a lot of the work that you are doing as the supportive spouse, but like what good things do you feel like, the physician spouse can do in this, in this relationship?
I would say two things. One, I usually don't cook dinner, which is for the better. And I mean, I'll prep and, usually shop together, or I'll shop or whatever, but she usually will execute, which I think is, I mean, she likes it. I think it's like a cathartic thing to sort of get out of work day and just like do something. And what else? I think that's probably the biggest thing. I forgot my second thing. If I can think of it again, I'll come back.
That's all good. Yeah.
The not bringing the home bringing the work home with her has probably been the biggest thing. And I mean, and definitely she does communicate very well. Like she's very organized. Like I mean, and she's trying to get me into it. I'm not a planner at all. I really don't like the word. I don't even like the word plan. And I'm very spontaneous, but she's really trying to get me into like, okay, you know, set a list of things or goals and that you want to accomplish. And so I just like how intentional she is with like being very structured. Because there's a lot of things that probably would not get done if she wasn't that way.
True.
And because I mean, I'm just like spur of the moment, live in the moment. You know, it's like, oh, you know, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And I mean, and then the cooking thing as well. Like, it's something we kind of do together, and it's like because I don't eat for taste. I mean, I just eat because I love to eat. And so whether it tastes good or it tastes bad, I'm gonna eat it regardless. I just eat to get full. And but like with me and her, when I'm cooking, when we first started dating and got married, my food was very bland for her. I mean, she is from Nigeria, so she comes with a very different palate and a very spicy one. And I mean, I've definitely grown to love spicy food now. And through kind of cooking and preparing food together now, it's like my cooking has gotten so much better. But we do kind of do it together where, you know, I'll be chopping because since she is a physician, she can't, I'm not trying to have her chop off her finger or whatever. I mean, I actually cut through my fingernail the other day doing it. So it's like, you know, it happened to me, not you. And so it's like at least putting myself in a role to kind of preserve her career at the expense of my own fingers. But
Yeah. Well, maybe get some disability insurance.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
just joking. Yeah, no, that's good. I mean, in everything, these are in every relationship, there's like, it requires work, you know, on both sides. And like I was, like, I know I mentioned to you before, but someone, like a doctor, what they wrote is like, is really, I think is resonates. And perhaps this is something that any, you know, some of you may think about sometimes. He said, it's starting to dawn on me that I can't be both a surgeon, a good husband, and a father. The choice between those should be easy, but it's not, and I don't know what to do. So like these challenges, like in the thinking and like the time compression, you know, and like you just only have so many hours in the day, and you know, each spouse has like their responsibility, and like I hear from you, all three of you, how you talk to each other, and you try to manage expectations and be organized, and then whatever pockets of, you know, any free time that there might be, you know, depending on where you're at in the training, that's going to be different, but you know, making the most of those opportunities when they come up, right?
Sure.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to ask is, okay, so feel free to share, you know, whatever you're comfortable with, and you don't have to be, if there's something you don't want to mention, that's totally fine. But is there any advice that you would give couples who are earlier on in their career?
The less they know, the better.
Ignorance is bliss?
Ignorance is bliss.
You know, why do you say that?
Well, I mean, you can't, you know, until you experience it. I think, you know, you could tell someone how miserable it is, but they're like, yeah, you know, no problem. It's like you have to experience it, and then you'll get it. And then you'll get it.
It is, yeah, you're right. You can't explain it. And everybody's situation is so different, because what one person needs in a relationship, the other person doesn't need. So it's hard. And it's whether you have kids or not kids, or are you working? Is it just your spouse, or are you both going to school? And so there's so many different pieces, and they don't all fit in a nice one little puzzle together. So it's what may work for me isn't going to work for the next person. And I've seen relationships not make it through med school. I've seen relationships not make it through residency. And then you see the ones that do, and it's not easy. It's not. I remember when Nick was a fireman, all of my friends were like, oh my God, you're so lucky your husband's a fireman. And I was like, okay, wait a second, girls. Do you think he's busting through the door and his turnouts looking all wonderful, a calendar worthy? And they're like, well, yeah. I was like, no, he comes home, he's dirty, he smells like soot. He sleeps for 2+ days before he even rolls out of bed. You hear an ambulance go by and you're worried, okay, is that a fire? Where are they going? Is that my husband on that rig? Who is he working with? Is he working with the strong team? So there's a image that people think you get for being married to a resident or a physician, or, oh, you're a doctor's wife. No, I'm not a doctor's wife. I'm Nick's wife. And that doesn't come with all of the glorifying that I guess it used to come with, because if I'm making sense, I don't know, but it's definitely different than people think it is.
I agree.
There's not the cocktail parties anymore at, the doctor houses, and it's not what it used to be that they make it look like in Hollywood.
Is that the high glamour?
It's not. It's he's sleeping, he's home, he's going to sleep, because if he's not on his toes, somebody's going to get hurt.
Mm. So it's really, if I can, if I could identify the point, it sounds like you're saying, be prepared for it to be like, prepare for a rough time.
Yes,
It's not avoidable.
it's not. And I don't think it matters what type of position they're going to be, if they're in residency, med school, or any job. There's your rough moments, but they pass, and you just, prepare for the worst and hope for the best.
Hmm. Yeah.
I agree with Ashley. I mean, it's definitely not a one size fits all
No.
thing. And I mean, so we can give the best advice we can give, but I mean, I think it's one of those ones, until you've actually lived through it and experienced it yourself, you really aren't going to know 100% what you can handle. And I mean, and I think that's where a huge part comes in, is communication, and kind of preparing them, at least, like, hey, this is what it's going to look like. And it's like, this is the road and the journey that we're about to go on. And it's like, so just kind of I guess a little heads up of what to expect. And I mean, and I thankfully, I've been blessed to have a wife that I honestly don't know how she does it, where she can go put in a 24-hour day. Cause like our court wedding was literally the day she came off a 24-hour shift.
Yeah.
And she was good to go. Like, I don't know how she did it. And so it's like, she's always been super intentional about making time for us, even after doing all that. And so I mean, I think it really comes down to just the person that's going through it, and the energy level they have. Somehow she can do it, and she can operate on, a 20-minute nap. I'm like, I need about 8 hours, 9, 10 maybe. But yeah, so I mean, it's different. It's going to be different for everybody. But I mean, it definitely is. It's a tough road to go on. But I mean, as long as you have somebody that's supportive and can be there, that's invested, I mean, and you're not going to check out, I guess. I mean, that's always very important to know and have.
I think also talking through the decisions, whether it's where you're applying to med school or where residency is going to be, with your spouse. And, I don't want to say, get buy-in, but it's much better, when you're rowing in the same direction, same plan, you have expectations of, how long a program's going to be, where you're going to be, what it'll be like when you live there, what are your expectations of each other? These are all sort of good things to suss out early and often.
Yeah. I know with my wife, like, because she was very concerned with that, with just like, she would think about me and, my work and career.
Yeah. And I'm like, I'm fine. I just like do my own thing. Don't worry about me. You do what you need to do.
That's literally what I told her. Like, it finally got to the point. It's like, you know what? It's like, do whatever you have to do to get to where you need to be, and I'll follow you. And
exactly.
So it kind of took that stress off of her, of having to think about, me and finding a job, this and that. And I told her, I'm like, wherever you want to go, I'm going to follow. I'll find a job. We'll be fine. And so just as long as you're willing to be open to just change. Because I know I don't do well with change, but I guess through all this, I've been managing it, especially with this move to Utah. I mean, I've had to fight against a lot within myself to be there for.
Yeah, these are some great thoughts. I really appreciate your honesty about all this. And one other question I had, just, I mean, I know this may not apply to you in particular, but just from your vantage point, because the pipeline, from undergrad, med school, resident, like it's years. There's a lot of, I've heard a lot of people go back and forth on making decisions about, if you're going to buy a house, or if you're not, or if you're going to try to focus on like limiting your scope with, where you would apply for training so that you could be closer to family, or do you like kind of keep it, wide open, or even having children. Like there's so many timing issues. Do you feel like imagine it like a hypothetical couple, they're early on in med school, like the first or second year. Should they be talking about this it's important to talk about it regularly, but like you don't want to also like harp on it too much. Like how should this conversation go? Should it happen like every couple months, every like twice a year or something like that? What do you think?
Like for all of those three big decision areas,
Yeah.
family, house, and I think there's a natural checkpoints, right? So like when you start med school, finishing med school into residency, there's not sort of a lot of for better or worse, your years between those are relatively decided for you. But I think it's good to check in annually. I mean, I think you should always be checking it. It certainly, annually to talk about maybe those big things, and maybe some quarterly one-on-ones, depending on who's in your family, who's involved. The house thing is interesting. We've been close to 3 times. Each time I should have bought it. It would have been a huge win. But I remember every time thinking like, this is just too complex, right? And my priority is to get, like her through school and us where we need to be. And it's like, we're moving on 10 days notice. It's like, do I really want to add like property ownership to this mix? Like, is that really worth it? Like 20 or 30 years from now? Am I going to be like, oh, thank goodness I bought that townhouse in DC when we were there in med school? And like, the answer is probably not. And I just think things get complex on their own. So I think, holding off, on the house till where you're going to be for a little bit, I think is generally wise advice. Even though it wasn't technically the right mathematical decision. Kids, I don't know, we didn't really have a lot of structured kid decisions, except to say that we were sort of going to wait until, through residency and fellowship, and actually her advice before we started this was that, people shouldn't wait, and they should, do what they want to do in life, and have kids when they want to have them, and such. And of course we decided to wait. So I don't know what the answer is. We'll see how that turns out. But I think frequent conversations are good, I think.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. Everyone's different. And so like what's right for one family is not necessarily right for another, but talking about it and having some sort of structure of communication so that things don't slip through the cracks. Because life, like a year seems like, well, that isn't very often enough, but I think that is, time goes much faster than we think it does. And then all of a sudden it's like, wait, when's the last time that we really talked about these, major decision points that they don't have to necessarily be made like right now, but the time at which they do need to be made is 6 months closer. It's a year it's things move quickly. So.
And your opinions on those things change.
Oh yeah.
I think that's, it's like, well, if you're thinking about X, like I'll start thinking about that too. Like we might as well spend the maximum amount of time thinking about that, before we have to make a decision.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, this has been really, really great. I'm so glad that all three of you were willing to take some time to speak with me and with each other about this important issue. The career path to the trajectory for doctors, it is so much different than what the perception is from the outside. And one of the reasons why I wanted to do this is to try to create even just like one more pathway for people to be talking with each other about some of the challenges, that they're very real. Like and physicians and their families, you all deserve empathy for the challenges that you face. And so I hope that this conversation overall is encouraging to you and anyone that takes the moment to listen. So thank you very much for joining and sharing your experiences freely today. Everyone needs a financial plan. Money Mediator, that's the show. Tyler Olson, that's me. Follow me on Twitter at Olson Planner. That's at OLSONPLANNER. You can also visit my website, olsonconsultingmi.com. If you want to talk about any of the points that we've discussed today, feel free to get in touch. New episodes of Money Mediator every month. Subscribe now wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss an episode.